So you're in a game, you're doing your thing, you're laning, you're jungling, whatever it may be. But this time you know this is a better game than most. Your opponents are all evenly matched. They're not falling for the same crap that you usually get away with. You're not getting solo kills all the time. They're using their abilities properly. They play very similar to your style, so you got to try really hard for this, and it's a tense matchup. And after a while, the game's dead even, and you die. You got outplayed. The opponent did something that you did not expect, something completely novel to you. A crazy gank path, a ridiculous itemization, whatever it may be. They did something that taught you something, and after you died, you're walking back to whatever you're doing, and you're thinking, man, I got to remember this. I'm going to replay this, watch it. This is something that, because this happened, I'm going to be a better play out of it. And you're a little sad that you got outplayed, but you know that you walked away better. But your team, they're not having any of it. They're thinking, how could you? How could you lose? How could you lose as the game? How could you lose lane? How could you have gotten outplayed? How dare you not be the single best player in the world in your role? Unacceptable. And so there's this stigma that for some reason the enemy team can't have any good plays, and everything that is negative towards your team is your own fault. There is nothing that the enemy team could do that is remotely good. And that is not very logical, as that's the whole point of matchmaking. You're supposed to put teams against each other that are of similar skill and have them kind of outplay each other back and forth so that you learn. You don't learn much by beating up little kids all the time that are gold when you're diamond. You have to keep playing against people that are similar skill. And so people get so upset at teammates getting outplayed or dying because they don't actually see what's going on. Maybe matchmaking didn't do things their way, but ultimately they are actually learning. They are getting outplayed, or even if they're really good, then they're still getting outplayed and they're learning something as a result. I mean, if you were up against a pro player and that pro player killed you, nobody would bat an eye. Be like, he was up against a pro player, nothing he could have done. But just because that pro player label isn't there, apparently that player loses the ability to be any good and any capacity to outplay somebody else. And so that's just not the way of going about things. You have to understand that the enemy team can be good. They are allowed to be good, and that's what makes the game fun. It's competitive, neck and neck. So take the thumb out of your mouth and grow up.
The lane is going to meet right in the middle, so not going to push too far forward for Faker, but there's the flash and the ultimate. First blood going over to Faker, immediately does cleanse.